fresh studies are creating massive waves across the senior wellness community. Individuals past 60 who depend on harmful carbohydrates daily watch their chances of diabetes, cardiovascular problems, and tissue deterioration explode. Meanwhile, those who transition to beneficial carbs can start recovering limb power in merely 12 hours. Still, the multi-trillion-dollar nutrition industry continues promoting white flour products and polished grains because frailty equals profit. Greater frailty translates to increased prescriptions, additional clinic appointments, and endless cash streaming into their accounts. But here's what they cannot suppress. Genuine research today confirms there exist 4 remarkable carbs that perform the complete reverse, powering tissue restoration, safeguarding blood flow, and maintaining older adults mobile and robust for decades. That's exactly why in this presentation, we're unmasking the 4 deadliest carbs you must eliminate forever past 60, and uncovering the 4 you need to consume regularly, organized from 4th to most critical. And when we arrive at carb number 2, you'll discover the common ingredient that astonished scientists by boosting tissue performance by more than 11% in only 7 days. Every reference I mention appears listed in the description box. Before we proceed, here's something I'm curious about. What's your current age, and which carbohydrate appears most frequently at your morning meal or evening dinner? Drop your answer in the comments section. I review them like daily wellness updates from this audience, and I respond because your experience might become the catalyst for transformation in someone else's journey. Now, without wasting another moment, let's start with number 4 on the avoidance catalog, one that masquerades as wholesome, but is gradually wrecking seniors' circulatory systems. Number 4, white bread. It's fluffy, budget-friendly, and simple, but white flour bread ranks among the most damaging carbs an older person can select. The issue stems from what occurs during manufacturing. The grain kernel gets stripped of its roughage, nutrients, and vital elements, leaving behind essentially pure starch. That starch enters the circulation rapidly, elevating glucose levels and demanding the pancreas release insulin. For older individuals, those constant elevations hasten tissue depletion, intensify abdominal fat, and increase chances of diabetes and cardiac conditions. Research in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition monitored individuals who consumed refined carbohydrates like white flour bread consistently. The findings were unmistakable. Those with maximum consumption showed a 37% elevated chance of acquiring type 2 diabetes, versus those who eliminated it. Another analysis demonstrated that older adults who substituted white flour bread with whole kernel varieties experienced improved circulation pressure and a 19% reduction in heart-related danger. Put simply, selecting white flour bread each sunrise doesn't merely satisfy appetite, it accelerates deterioration. Consider Dorothy, 71, from Illinois. She had consumed toast with spread for generations, never questioning it. But when her physician informed her she was approaching diabetes, she finally switched to whole kernel rye bread. Within 90 days, her morning glucose readings improved, her vitality remained consistent following meals, and she no longer experienced the draining collapse that previously arrived mid-morning. Dorothy mentioned swapping bread was among the simplest modifications she ever implemented, yet one of the most impactful. White flour bread might be advertised as fortified, but don't fall for it. What's reintroduced never compensates for what was eliminated. For older individuals wanting stronger tissues and more reliable vitality, this carb deserves removal from the menu. And if white flour bread weakens the system so swiftly, the following carb on our catalog proves even more hazardous because it conceals itself behind a wellness image, while silently devastating glucose levels every sunrise. Number 3, sweetened breakfast cereals. They arrive in vibrant packaging with cheerful characters, but sugar-loaded morning cereals represent a quiet catastrophe for older adults. What appears as a fast, innocent bowl of flakes or clusters is actually just sweetener, processed starch, and synthetic ingredients compressed into appealing formations. That sugar burden crashes into the circulation within moments, triggering glucose surges and drops that leave tissues weaker, hunger uncontrolled, and permanent damage accumulating in the cardiovascular system, filtering organs and mind. Research from Tufts University in 2019 tracked individuals who consumed sweetened cereals regularly. Scientists discovered a 26% increased chance of premature mortality compared to those who rarely consumed them. Another analysis in the British Journal of Nutrition validated that processed morning cereals connect to excess weight, insulin dysfunction, and elevated cholesterol markers. For older individuals, those dangers accumulate rapidly: accelerated tissue depletion, increased belly adipose, and a substantially higher probability of diabetic complications. The challenge with sugary cereals is their engineering for dependency. The mixture of sweetener and processed starch activates the mind's pleasure pathways, leaving older adults craving more, even as their tissues and skeletal structure starve for actual nourishment. Without roughage, protein, or beneficial lipids, these cereals don't power strength, they drain it. Even varieties marketed as whole kernel frequently contain 10 to 18 grams of sweetener per serving, equivalent to consuming dessert cookies for morning meals. For individuals beyond 60, that's not merely vacant calories, it's a daily advancement toward frailty and illness. Sweetened cereals might guarantee vitality, but what they actually provide is decline. And if these cereals prove this hazardous, the upcoming carb on our catalog ranks even higher on the threat scale, because it pretends to be beneficial while secretly pushing older adults nearer to diabetes with every mouthful. Number 2. Rice cakes. They appear airy, crispy, and innocent, but rice cakes rank among the most deceptive items in the senior nutrition plan. Promoted as low-calorie snacks, they're really just refined white grain puffed and depleted of virtually all nutrition. That manufacturing transforms the starch into what researchers call high glycemic carbohydrate, meaning it explodes into your circulation almost as rapidly as pure sweetener. For older individuals, that means abrupt glucose surges, followed by the overly familiar drop that leaves limbs weak, vitality exhausted, and desires returning forcefully. Consider Linda, 66, from Toronto. She began snacking on rice cakes to reduce weight, believing they were a beneficial substitution. But rather than feeling lighter, she experienced dizziness and midday collapses. When her nutrition specialist replaced them with fruit slices and nut spread, her glucose stabilized, and she possessed the endurance to walk without her limbs trembling. She recognized rice cakes weren't supporting her nutrition plan, they were undermining it. The research clarifies why. With zero roughage, zero protein, and virtually no nutrients or elements, rice cakes overflow the circulation with glucose, but abandon nothing to reconstruct tissue or maintain vitality. Older adults consuming them might feel satisfied for 15 minutes, but appetite and exhaustion return forcefully, driving excessive consumption and stealing limb power. Rice cakes exemplify perfectly how lightweight doesn't equal beneficial. For aging systems, they're hollow fuel, rapid entry, rapid exit, with harm remaining. And if rice cakes can impact glucose this intensely, wait until you witness the number one worst carb. It's a foundation in virtually every household, but studies reveal it's quietly destroying senior wellness bite by bite. Before we continue, if you're gaining insight from this presentation, go ahead and press that thumbs up button and ensure you subscribe and activate the notification bell so you never overlook powerful wellness guidance like this. Number 1. White rice. It might be the most widespread foundation on dining surfaces globally, but white grain ranks among the most dangerous carbs for older individuals. The challenge begins with manufacturing. When the shell, outer layer, and core get stripped away, what remains is virtually pure starch. With a high glycemic rating, that means white grain floods the circulation with glucose, spiking levels almost as rapidly as candy. For older adults, those constant surges accelerate tissue depletion, fuel abdominal fat, and push the system toward diabetes, filtering organ damage, and cardiac illness. A massive analysis in the British Medical Journal tracked over 350,000 individuals across Asia and North America. The discoveries: those who consumed the most white grain showed a 55% elevated chance of acquiring type 2 diabetes versus those who consumed the least. For mature individuals already battling slower metabolism and weaker insulin reaction, that danger skyrockets. Another examination connected high white grain consumption with elevated circulation pressure and diminished tissue function in older adults, demonstrating that this foundation food is quietly sabotaging limb strength and total wellness. Consider Hiroshi, 72, from Japan. He had consumed white grain at virtually every meal his complete existence, but when his physician diagnosed him with beginning phase diabetes, he transitioned to brown grain and quinoa within months. His morning glucose readings improved, and he noticed he could walk extended distances without exhaustion. Hiroshi admitted he never imagined such a basic swap could restore vitality and stability in his limbs. The threat of white grain exists in what it lacks. Without roughage, it triggers extreme sugar fluctuations. Without elements like magnesium, it fails to assist tissue contraction and restoration. Without protein, it leaves older individuals with fuel that ignites hot and rapid, but never strengthens tissue. It's hollow vitality. And gradually, that emptiness erodes independence. For individuals past 60, white grain should be regarded as a concealed threat, not a daily foundation. And now that we've unmasked the 4 carbs you should never consume, it's time to reverse direction. Next, we'll uncover the 4 carbs you must consume regularly to power strength, reconstruct tissue, and safeguard your wellness for decades ahead. We've witnessed how the incorrect carbs, white flour bread, sweetened cereals, rice cakes, and white grain drain vitality and quietly harm senior wellness. But here's the encouraging news. Not all carbs prove harmful. Actually, the correct ones can accomplish the reverse: power tissue expansion, maintain glucose, and provide aging limbs the consistent power they've been lacking. So, let's reverse the narrative and count down the 4 carbs you must consume regularly to defend strength and independence. Number 4. Buckwheat. It might not be as renowned as oats or grain, but buckwheat ranks among the most remarkable carbs older adults can introduce to their nutrition. Despite its designation, it's not wheat whatsoever. It's a seed packed with roughage, premium plant protein, magnesium, and protective compounds like rutin, which defends circulation vessels and enhances blood movement. For mature individuals, that means more consistent glucose, stronger tissues, and improved blood delivery to tired limbs. Research published in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry discovered that buckwheat protein reduced glucose by 19% in diabetic subjects, while also decreasing harmful cholesterol markers. Another experiment in elderly women demonstrated that consuming buckwheat porridge improved tissue recovery and decreased exhaustion compared to processed grains. That's genuine evidence that this ancient carb battles tissue depletion directly. Consider Anna, 69, from Poland. She grew up consuming buckwheat groats, but abandoned them for decades. When she began struggling with weak limbs and borderline diabetes, her physician suggested restoring it. Within 8 weeks, she noticed her morning vitality returning, and her midday sugar drops disappeared. She called buckwheat her forgotten strength ingredient. Buckwheat can be prepared as porridge, introduced to soups, or even processed into flour for pancakes. However, served, it provides more than flavor. It provides stability and strength. And if buckwheat can enhance circulation and tissue restoration, wait until you witness the following carb. It's one that defends skeletal structure and tissues so effectively. Researchers call it the foundation carb for older adults. Number 3. Amaranth grain. Once revered by the Aztecs and nearly abandoned for generations, amaranth has emerged as one of the most remarkable ancient grains for older individuals. Unlike processed carbs that steal your system's strength, amaranth is a complete protein source, meaning it contains all 9 essential amino components. That makes it exceptional among plant ingredients and especially beneficial for mature individuals who require every nutrient to reconstruct aging tissues. It's also loaded with calcium, magnesium, iron, and roughage, creating an ideal formula for stronger limbs and more consistent vitality. Research in the International Journal of Food Sciences and Nutrition discovered that older adults who consumed amaranth consistently witnessed improvements in tissue function with a 25% increase in stamina compared to those consuming processed grains. Another clinical analysis highlighted its impact on cholesterol markers, demonstrating LDL harmful cholesterol decreased while HDL beneficial cholesterol increased, defending blood delivery to tissues and the cardiovascular system. For older individuals, that means reduced stiffness, reduced exhaustion, and stronger daily capability. Consider Luis, 72, from Mexico City. He had always witnessed amaranth sold as a snack, but never considered it as remedy. When his nutrition specialist recommended preparing it as porridge, Luis attempted it 3 sessions weekly. Within weeks, he noticed reduced knee discomfort. His morning walks felt easier, and his physician stated his cholesterol measurements were the finest they'd been in decades. Luis laughed that what he once considered just street food became his limb's greatest ally. The research is unmistakable. Amaranth's complete protein assists tissue rebuilding. Its calcium and magnesium strengthen skeletal structure, and its roughage steadies glucose, preventing the vitality collapses that weaken tissues. Iron improves oxygen transportation, ensuring tired limbs possess the fuel to continue moving. For older adults, this combination is precisely what's required to decelerate sarcopenia and preserve independence. Amaranth can be boiled into porridge, popped like popcorn, or processed into flour for bread and pancakes. It's adaptable, affordable, and incredibly nutrient concentrated. And if amaranth can reconstruct strength this effectively, the following carb climbs even higher. So remarkable, it's been demonstrated to directly defend cardiovascular and tissue wellness simultaneously. Number 2. Black rice. Recognized as forbidden grain in ancient China because exclusively royalty could consume it, black grain is currently acknowledged as one of the most nutrient-concentrated carbs older adults can introduce to their nutrition plans. Unlike white grain, which depletes the system of strength, black grain is packed with anthocyanins, the same remarkable protective compounds discovered in blueberries that defend circulation vessels, enhance blood movement, and combat inflammation in aging tissues. It also provides roughage, protein, iron, and essential elements that help power stamina and reconstruct limb strength. Research in the Journal of Nutrition discovered that black grain extract significantly decreased indicators of oxidative stress and enhanced blood delivery, helping tissue material recover more rapidly. Another clinical analysis revealed that transitioning from white grain to black grain reduced morning glucose by 23% and improved cholesterol measurements within merely 12 weeks. For older individuals, that means stronger limbs, reduced swelling, and a decreased chance of falls or frailty. Consider Ming Li, 70, from Hong Kong. She had consumed white grain her complete existence. But when her granddaughter introduced her to black grain porridge, she hesitantly made the transition. Within months, she noticed her vitality no longer dropped following meals. Her knees ached less, and she could walk extended distances without pausing. Her physician even remarked that her circulation appeared 10 years younger. The secret exists in black grain's combination. Its anthocyanins combat inflammation that consumes tissues and joints. Its roughage prevents sugar surges that exhaust vitality. And its iron increases oxygen transportation to tired limb tissues, while protein helps reconstruct them. Unlike hollow carbs, every mouthful of black grain feeds strength, stability, and stamina. Black grain can be prepared into porridge, introduced to soups, or served as an accompanying dish. Its nutty taste and deep purple shade make it as attractive to the vision as it is remarkable for the system. For older individuals, swapping white grain for black grain isn't merely a healthier selection, it's a life-altering one. And if black grain can deliver this much power, the number one carb on our catalog proves even greater, demonstrated to power tissue expansion, defends skeletal structure, and maintain older adults walking robust for decades. Number 1. Lentils. At the absolute summit of the catalog is one of the simplest, most affordable, and most remarkable ingredients you can position on your plate: lentils. For older individuals, lentils are a game transformer. They're packed with plant-derived protein, complex carbs, iron, folate, magnesium, and roughage all in one tiny seed. This mixture powers tissue expansion, maintains glucose, and strengthens skeletal structure, making lentils the supreme carb to battle frailty and maintain limbs robust well past 60. Research published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition discovered that individuals who consumed legumes like lentils at minimum for sessions weekly reduced their chance of type 2 diabetes by 33%. Another clinical experiment demonstrated older adults who substituted processed carbs with lentils had reduced glucose, decreased belly adipose, and improved tissue function in merely 90 days. Lentils don't merely satisfy appetite, they reconstruct your system from within. Consider Hassan, 74, from Egypt. He used to depend on white grain and bread at every meal. But when his daughter encouraged him to substitute them for lentil soup twice weekly, the transformation was dramatic. Within weeks, his limbs felt more stable, his midday exhaustion disappeared, and his physician informed him his hemoglobin measurements had improved. Hassan laughed, stating he never imagined the poor individual's ingredient would become his finest remedy. The power of lentils exists in their equilibrium. The protein feeds tissues, The iron helps red circulation cells transport oxygen. The magnesium relaxes circulation vessels for improved blood movement. And the roughage maintains glucose stable. Together, they provide older adults the strength, stamina, and resilience that processed carbs can never duplicate. Lentils are versatile too. Boil them into soups, prepare them into stews, or toss them into salads. They're affordable, accessible, and endlessly adaptable. And unlike the hollow carbs that steal your strength, lentils restore with every mouthful. That's why lentils claim their #1 position. The carb that should appear on every older adult's table if they want to walk stronger, exist longer, and preserve their independence. So, there you possess it. 8 carbs that can either demolish your wellness or reconstruct your strength past 60. On one side exists the silent destroyers: white flour bread, sweetened cereals, rice cakes, and white grain. They appear innocent, but every mouthful pushes older adults nearer to diabetes, cardiovascular illness, and weak, unreliable limbs. On the opposite side exist the remarkable defenders: buckwheat, amaranth, black grain, and lentils. These aren't merely ingredients, they're remedy from nature, demonstrated by research to maintain glucose, power tissue expansion, and provide your limbs the capability to support you decades longer. Consider this: every meal represents a selection. One direction leads to exhaustion, frailty, and reliance on medications. The opposite leads to stamina, equilibrium, and independence well into your 70s, 80s, and further. The distinction isn't complex. It's right there on your plate. All the references I've mentioned appear listed in the description, because you deserve to witness the research for yourself, rather than accepting the nutrition industry's claims. Now, I want to hear from you. Where are you observing from, and which carb are you going to introduce or eliminate first? Share your response in the comments section. I'm not merely skimming. I review them like narratives from this audience, and I respond because your experience could inspire another older adult to implement the modification that rescues their wellness. If this presentation opened your vision, don't retain it to yourself. Press that thumbs up button, share it with an acquaintance or family member who requires this information, and subscribe so you never overlook the researcher-supported guidance that could transform your future. Remember, strength doesn't retire, and neither should you. Select the correct carbs today and reclaim the limbs, the vitality, and the existence you deserve. If you possess any questions or remarks, please feel comfortable leaving them below. Thanks for observing.